That was I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. So, speaking of dying, one of the
Good transition. Noted.
Speaking of dying, one of the greatest rules, and something that I always took pride in playing, actually doing in all forms, like whether it was little league, whether it was like the bigger leagues, whether it was
stick ball on the corner.
Yeah, was the collisions. And
at home plate.
Collisions at home plate, and another fun little collision you get to do is the best is if someone's standing in the baseline path in the first base or whatnot. When you turn the corner, you can knock them down if they're standing in the way, and it happens. But that's much different than the intentional home plate collision, which they're taking away. And my opinion, I think it's a little ridiculous. If what's going to happen, my question is what's going to replace that?
Yeah, the idea is, I suppose, they don't want to get rid of home plate collisions. They want to get rid of unnecessary home plate collisions.
Like barreling through someone,
but the question is,
and stuff.
My question would be, Frankie, how do you determine whether it's unnecessary or not?
Exactly.
In the sense of, the home plate umpire has to focus on quite a few things to begin with, and obviously they have the rest of the umpire staff that can help them out. But these are bang plays we're talking about. These games are decided by home plate collisions often. They really are. Yep. So how are you supposed to multitask and understand, okay, this guy was intentionally blocking the base path when he shouldn't have been. Okay, this guy was intentionally blocking the runner, looking to knock him down. Okay, he did have possession of the ball. Okay, the ball wasn't secured. It just seems like it's going to be really, really messy. And listen, we're athletes. We're sensitive to concussions in sports, and we know that we know a lot more about them now than we have in the past. But the reality is, it's a part of baseball.
You have to live with it, man.
It's the instinct of players. The guys who are playing now, you look at somebody like Brian McCann, who was just signed to the Yankees, a catcher. He's been the victim of a home plate collision, got a concussion back in 2008.
A couple of guys too, man. It happens a lot. Every year it happens. Someone gets their block knocked off, but it doesn't mean that, okay, because this happened, we have to take this away. It's just this is a part of baseball. I understand that
Bingo.
Teams lose money. Teams lose money when the guy that they're spending millions of dollars on gets hurt and he's being sidelined, but you know how you fix that? Stop paying them $25 million to play a game. You know what I mean?
Obviously we know that their union is too strong for their money to be curtailed.
No, of course.
But to your point, though, Frankie, okay. Sometimes players break bones because they accidentally got hit with a fastball. We're going to outlaw fastballs next because they cause injuries potentially.
Now, how are you going to sit there and determine whether a guy threw wildly inaccurate or purposely cracked the guy in the head?
Yeah.
How do you know that was done intentionally? How many games have we seen last year, John, where the umpire would just stand up and warn the pitcher, you do that again and you're out?
Yeah, and one that comes to my mind last year was when Dempster drilled A-Rod. And the thing that was so annoying about that is he clearly intentionally he missed him. He pitched behind him. Usually when you're an umpire and you see that the pitch is behind the player, they're trying to hit the player they just missed, so the fact that in that particular situation that they didn't throw Dempster out, that was absurd. But to your point, Frankie, that's exactly right. It's just too much gray area for a game that has a lot of involvement from the umpires. Umpires make a lot of calls, and now you're just giving them another call on top of the ones that they already make, and umpires are people. That they have human error. They make a lot of mistakes. And speaking of
more pressure on those guys.
And speaking of the human error of umpires, now they are expanding
the replay
in baseball. I'm not exactly sure of how it's going to pan out. From what I understand, I believe that you have 2 challenges before, I think it's the 8th or 9th inning. And if you challenge a call made by the umpires and you end up being right, then that won't count towards you losing your challenges. And then it's just very confusing to me because baseball games, if you ever watched Red Sox Yankees in the heyday, they'd be like
no timeout.
And they're going to be 5-hour games, 5.5-hour games. So now you have
a replay
managers challenging calls, and if the umpires are on an off day and they're making a lot of bad calls, is the game going to be a day long?
7-hour game.
6 or 7 hours, and people work the next day, so if it's a night game, and then also, players have to catch flights to other cities. It's just, these are strange expansions that the MLB is toying with. I'd love to see how they actually play out in the field, but it seems like it's going to be a little a little confusing.
It seems like it's going to be a little bit of a mess to clean, but you know what? Before we get in there, let's pan it out. Let's see how it plays. Let's see how this collision call works, and let's see how this replay works. Johnny, you wanted to touch on a little bit of Mets baseball.
Oh yeah, that's for a second I thought when you said
Mutts,
I thought that was their name. I'm sorry, guys. Listen, I'm not trying to be biased. I know a lot of you guys out there are Mets fans, but we're Yankee fans. It is what it is. But Mets fans, by and large, are actually on the same page as me today after the Mets owner declared that this Mets team this year is a 90-win team. Now,
yeah, that's funny.
I listen to sports radio all day. You know, I partake in sports radio myself, so I actually got to hear a lot of callers on both ESPN and WFAN sort of chime in on this discussion. And overwhelmingly, the discussion of the Mets fans were, why in a million years would you say this team is going to win 90 games? Now listen, nothing's out of the realm of possibility. Anything is possible. Or as my wonderful, he's not a colleague, but as Yankee announcer mentions to his comrade when saying Yankee games, well, you just can't predict baseball, Susan. I think that goes, the same can be said in this situation. I mean, you can't say that the Mets are definitely not going to win 90 games, but logic and reason tells you that last year the team won, 74 games? What did they add this year that equates to 16 wins? Can you explain that? One thing I know they did lose is their best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in baseball, Matt Harvey. They practically lost him for the season. They'll be lucky if he's back at the end.
And I heard Dickey was a flop.
Yeah, well, Dickey's gone. Dickey's in the Blue Jays. They traded him a while ago, but
man.
You know, my point is you lost your best pitcher. Now, granted, they added Bartolo Colon, a former Yankee, mind you.
He should do well.
He's an older guy though, Frankie, and he was busted for PEDs 2 years ago. When he was with the Yanks, that was actually his rebound season where he revived his career. But for anyone who remembers that, as a Yankee fan, I do, is for the first half of the year he came out guns a-blazing, and then the second half of the year he was useless. Now, mind you, last year he pitched for the Oakland Athletics and he got 18 wins, so he may have something still left in the tank. But he is 40. He looks out of shape, and he throws mostly fastballs. So you wonder if that's really someone who can replace an ace like Matt Harvey. And on top of that, Neese, the current ace pitcher of the Mets, because Harvey is out, was just sent up to New York from spring training because he is having arm pain, so he's getting an MRI. Now they added Curtis Granderson and Chris Young. Okay, so these guys equal 16 wins. Even the Mets players probably don't believe that. And, you know, as Mets fans, you should be annoyed because at the end of the day, there were players out there that could have helped this team. Nelson Cruz just signed with the Baltimore Orioles. That guy would have been a great power bat to throw in the middle of the lineup for the Mets. Even Mets fans want him. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm just looking at it objectively. They could have had this guy. This was a home run threat. You wedge him in there with David Wright and Curtis Granderson, and you have yourself a solid 3-4-5 in your lineup, or 2-3-4, however you want to do it. But they pass on him for no good reason. Their payroll is like $79 million, which is nothing for a New York team. And so far, Stephen Drew is out there still as a free agent. Hey, I'm a Yankee fan. I want the Yanks to get him. Not that he's a difference maker, but he'll be a stabilizing force in the infield at shortstop and have him move around. But the Mets need him even more than the Yankees do, and they're still penny pinching. So the fact that the owner has the nerve to penny pinch the way that he's doing, and then try and sell tickets by saying you're going to win 90 games really is bothersome. I mean, it's hard to take the organization seriously when you behave in that way.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Johnny. Now, when we come on back, we're gonna talk in a little bit of football. Weigh in for a few minutes. Unless we don't have enough time, I think we should be able to squeeze in about a minute or two. If not, then we'll carry it to next week. But until then, it would be a promise from me to you. When in Rome. When in Rome.